Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the biggest episode of Sitting
Oh my
Courtside
God.
yet, episode 42. The Boston Celtics are your new NBA champions. Here we are, cigar in hand, Celtics hat on, Celtics championship shirt already in possession. My name is Dante. I'm ready to give you all the spiel, all this talk of the Boston Celtics. I'm here to Jerry, joined by my best friend Jerry here. Though I didn't mean to skip
Hey,
over you.
hey
I'm
man,
just
hey man. I'm not even mad at it. I think it's episode 43, by the way. I'm not sure, but you deserve the floor. The floor is yours, man. I want you to have your spiel and go crazy. You deserve it.
42, 43, don't matter. The only number that matters is 18. 18 championships for the Boston Celtics. Before we
Woo.
get into it, please make sure to subscribe if you are here on YouTube. If you're a podcast listener, give us a 5-star rating, review, all that good stuff. Jerry, let's talk about the Boston Celtics beating the Dallas Mavericks 4-1 to close out the series this past
Yes.
Monday. Jason Tatum with a great closeout game that we've been looking for from him all series. Jaylen Brown for the great
Yep.
closeout game as well. Celtics win by 18 points. May I also add? I don't know if you're a man
Yes.
of
Yes.
coincidences or
Yes.
destiny
Yes.
or fate
Yes.
or
Yes.
anything like that, but just a
You
lot
got
of
it.
things adding up.
Okay. All right. I hear you. You guys spanked that ass. You did what you had to do. You took care of business. I think we could all agree, everybody watching, everybody that's not watching, even if you weren't watching the finals, we can all agree that the better team won.
Hmm.
And the Boston
Mm-hmm.
Celtics were head and shoulders just the most dominant team all season long, right? They had the best record in the NBA. They hit 100 wins, I believe, or over 80 wins or something like that this season. It's yeah, this is greatness in its prime, man. I think it's time. Like a 106 to 88 victory in a closeout game. Jason Tatum is the first Boston Celtic ever with 30 points and 10 plus assists in the finals. And there's been a lot of great Boston Celtic players
There's
to
a few
come
of
through
them.
the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to be the first one to do that, despite the doubters, he even had a voiceover ready and recorded after the game was over. And I was thinking in my head, like, wow, that sounds like Jason Tatum. Oh, wait,
That is
that is
Jason
Jason.
Tatum.
He
He
did this
had
shit
he had,
before.
he had the Jordan commercial, ready to go right after too.
Yep.
Man, Boston Celtics 80 wins on the season on the dot. 80-21 was their final record. Also, second best championship run in the 16 win era. They went 16-3
Can you tell them who they're
on
behind?
their way. They're behind the Golden State Warriors, Jerry.
No,
16
no.
wins and
The
the
Lakers won
16 win.
16-1.
Well, I think this is what. Oh, 16 win era from 2002 to 2024.
Oh, from okay.
Listen,
All right.
listen. I'm just reading off what I have on my phone here. Sean Grande. If you have an issue, take it up with him.
I might
Uh,
give him a call.
but listen, so Boston Celtics, from start to finish, were the most dominant team in basketball. When the finals were just beginning, people were giving their predictions of who's going to win what. I know you gave your prediction of Mavs and whatever. You said you wanted to go against the Celtics. You wanted to go against my prediction. Understood.
I
But
had to.
there really were people out there, Jerry, believe it or not, that really thought the Mavericks were going to beat the Celtics in 5 games.
89% of the world, right? Of the
A
bets.
lot of bets were placed on the Dallas Mavericks, and that confused me because it's like, well, the Celtics won 14 more games than them in the regular season. The Celtics have the better roster. You can make whatever argument you want about the top two players. At this point, you want to pick Luka and Kyrie over Jason and Jalen, die on that hill. That's fine with me.
They already
We
did.
have they did, and you can stay there. You can rot there. We don't want you coming down. Um, and just the Celtics from the very beginning. I said, listen, Celtics in 5, they have the deeper roster. The top guys will equal each other out. Eventually, it'll balance out. And this is the result. Boston dominates game 5 after a terrible game 4. Terrible. One of the worst. I think it was statistically their worst games since the 2021 season. Lowest scoring half under Joe Mazzulla. They couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. The refs got a little pay bump that game. Not that they were the reasons why they lost, but the refs were not on their A game that game. When you have Scott Foster, the extender, in there, he's gonna do his thing.
Had a
Uh,
baby.
yeah, Scott Foster, he makes sure that every dollar that he gets paid, it's worth it. And yeah, man, Boston Celtics, 18th championship, first title since 2008. Just me being a Celtics fan that has been. We talked about this before. Just I started watching basketball in 2008. That was the year that they won their first championship. But I don't really count that as my first championship. I was so young. I wasn't there for the grind the years before, with the ups and downs, mostly downs. But now it's I lived through the revolving door of players coming through, all the rosters that were put together that were met with expectations and crumbled, and all the trips to the Eastern Conference Finals, the finals, and coming up short to finally get that win. It's a feeling I've never felt before, Jerry. Such a good feeling in my heart, in my chest, my brain, my
Hey, man.
stomach, everywhere. It's a great
Let it
feeling. Hey, you said to me, I got a year until they get eliminated from the playoffs next year. If they get eliminated, I have free reign. I have the opportunity. I have the pass to be cocky with this. So
Again, I'll double down on that. I'll say that live on camera that as a Boston Celtic fan, not just you, obviously, but the whole fan base can gloat. They can brag and they can do all that stuff until they're not the defending NBA champs anymore, because that's what they're going to be going into the 2024-25 season. So anybody that has a problem with that, argue with your mama. like I got nothing for you. Hey, I'm a Laker fan. Trust me, guys. It's not like I wanted to see Boston win a ring, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy that Tatum and Brown and those guys that everybody tried to tear apart for years on end here now for the last 6 years, however long they've been together, that they shouldn't be coexisting anymore in this system. That they should get another star. Jaylen Brown was almost traded for Kevin Durant once upon a time. Jaylen Brown has been in trade talks pretty much ever since Tatum became the quote-unquote guy. And he won Finals MVP.
Yes, he did.
So
well deserved. So well deserved.
The vote was 7-4. So it's not
Wasn't-
exactly unanimous, but it was definitely, I had a little 3-vote margin. I think, yes, Jason Tatum had his argument to be made, especially with the closed-out game. But Jaylen Brown was a model of consistency the whole time. Let me read off these stats here. But averaging 20.8 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 23% from deep. I know it's kind of crazy. And 73% from the free throw line. Yes, maybe not great percentage-wise, but he did show up every game. He was guarding Luka most of those possessions. And even on the mic'd-up portion of the game, we heard Jaylen Brown say that, hey, don't take me out this game until Luka's coming out. Because that was his primary defender. That's who he was on most of the series.
That's a leader right there.
So, well-deserved to go to Jaylen Brown. So, I guess to actually open up some dialogue here, since I let you go. I just wanted you to
no. I appreciate
you.
You gave me my floor. You gave me my floor.
Absolutely. But first,
the glasses are off, so you can, when the glasses are
basketball.
off,
we can talk basketball.
Talk now. Yeah, let's get into analytics.
So, yeah, the question is, did Jaylen Brown deserve MVP? Obviously, I just mentioned he was a model of consistency. That'll go into my argument. I don't know if it's in yours, but Jason Tatum did average more points, more rebounds, and assists, but he shot worse from the field at 39, 26, and 92 on his shooting split. So a little shaky. Didn't really have the best games, but he was clearly the best playmaker on the squad. But how do you feel about how the voting actually shaped out for the Finals MVP there?
I'm fine with it. Honestly, I was rooting for Jaylen to win the Finals MVP. Tatum had the better numbers overall, like you mentioned, 22 points, almost 8 rebounds, 7 assists, which I think is very impressive for someone like him. We saw his shooting struggles, but to be able to, pick his game up and play amazing on other ends of the ball, defense, but also getting his teammates involved When the shot's not falling, he can still be effective. He's only the sixth player. I have the stat pulled up. The sixth player since 1980 to win a title while leading their team in points, rebounds, and assists. So, and also became the most. He became the player with the most points scored in the playoffs before turning 27. So he accomplished a lot in this playoff run.
Yeah.
But I think this Finals MVP that Jalen won is more of a collective of like, and you mentioned a lot of it already. Gets drafted in 2016. He played his rookie year, but it wasn't like, he wasn't never starting. He was coming off the bench. I think he played like 15, 16 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Tatum comes around and things start to change a little bit. Kyrie comes around. Jalen gets benched. Jalen is in trade rumors. Jalen voices his frustrations. Kyrie leaves. Jalen gets a 4-year, $100 million extension, which I remember this day like it was yesterday. I remember being in my college cafeteria when this news broke. And back in the day, I was used to write like Celtics articles and my Celtics podcasts and stuff. And I immediately wrote an article about how Jaylen Brown deserved the money because when he was going to hit free agency, a team was going to match a deal or give him a max deal, whatever. And the Celtics had no choice but to match it or let him go. So this was the perfect deal for Jalen. The Celtics, at the time, a little bit overpriced, but it's something as time goes on, as the contracts get bigger, that contract becomes what exactly. So, and then, gets that, performs well under this contract. And then, now we're starting to get jokes about can't dribble with his left hand, underperformed in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, should get traded, split up the Jays. So that's been something that has been talked about extensively for the last 4 or 5 years. Then he gets another extension, $300 million, highest paid deal in NBA history. And this guy just gets clowned for it all offseason. It's like this guy can't dribble with his left, can't reach expectations, can't do this or that. He's getting paid the most money in NBA history. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? Less than a year later, he's Finals MVP. So I think it's just he didn't have better stats than Jason, but I think from start to finish, he was the most locked in. I think he was the leader. I think him and Jason are the leaders, but I think Jaylen Brown was just on a different level this postseason. Won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP as well. Like you said, was picking up Luka Doncic. Was consistent almost every game. Game 4 was a blip. We're not going to even worry about that. But besides Game 4, he was locked in. Led the team. Not in statistics, not in points or nothing like that, but he led the team. And yeah, I think he's more deserving than anyone. I mean, I would have been happy if Tatum won. I think that would have been cool too. I think that's something he had to his resume. But the way the Celtics are team basketball and with Jalen and Jason, hey man, I mean, it could just be the start of this. Jalen and Jason have the potential to become one of the greatest duos in NBA history. They stay together, they keep winning or whatever. And if that's the case, let's say they win a few more. 1 year it's going to be Jalen, the next it could be Jason. Maybe this is something, it doesn't have to be one guy that's taking all the awards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not looking towards the future like that, but I think it's fair that, with how this team is and how the Jays are together, it's okay that one guy doesn't win all the awards. So I'm very happy for Jalen. He deserves it. I think he's the perfect representation, perfect example of what you want an NBA star to be. Just like super humble, great on and off the court. Just a great model, great citizen. Very happy for him. I think he deserved it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. I was personally excited that he did get it over Tatum. Now, I think a good happy medium for the both probably would have been a split decision. I would have loved to see them kind of share their award. I know it's 11 votes that went towards it, but maybe 5 go to Tatum, 5 go to Brown, and 1 goes to Drew Holiday because he did play his ass off too in that
He did.
closeout.
Shout out
I
Drew
just would have
Holiday.
loved to see, I guess, parity, but at the same time, Jaylen Brown getting that, and let alone that slight shot too, holding up the Finals MVP trophy. Guess with which hand? It was with his left.
The left hand,
So
baby. The
I
left
think
hand.
I think it's
Great
well
moment.
deserved. There's not really much else for me to even add to that. He was the undisputed dog all playoff long, and then get to the biggest stage again for the second time after losing in 2022. You get to erase that shame, and hey, Jaylen Brown stepped up to the plate all 5 games. So obviously, Game 4 is just that one game we could kind of chalk up to just wow, like we weren't going to sweep this team. They did get here. They did beat some tough opponents to get here in the Dallas Mavericks. So you know what? I think we let go of the grip a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. It happens. I saw it happen in Game 1 whenever the Lakers gave up a win to Allen Iverson, who dropped 48 in Game 1 to stop a perfect postseason run. We could have been 16-0. We ended up being 16-1 because that man was just that great.
Yep.
Luka and Kyrie actually showed up. Kyrie had his best game of the series in game 4. So it just happens. Not everything can be perfect. So
winning at home is better, anyways.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, it all worked out.
Fans, you get to go back home and sleep in your bed after you get piss-faced drunk off of champagne in the locker room. So I, for one, think it was better off this way, just like how you do. So yeah, I have nothing else to really even add about that, man. It's an amazing feat. Congrats to you guys again. I think I could say that to you today, tomorrow, any point this summer. Hey, Dante, Boston, congratulations. You guys earned it. Best team all year. I don't think it's really even close. So, but onto now that you guys did get one championship, it was very important that you did. Also, shout out to Tatum and Brown being the second duo to score over 400 points in each postseason run or something like that.
Yeah, I saw some stat like that, huh?
Yep. So yeah, obviously it was a good decision to keep those guys together. Hey, every single young team out there, if you happen to be watching this, if you keep young talent together that's actually really freaking good, this is what it could possibly amount to.
Yeah.
You don't need microwavable success. You could actually just, let it bake a little bit in the oven. Take your time, wait till it's nice and golden brown, and when you pull it out, hey, you get a championship contender, and now you have a chance to build a dynasty moving forward. Well, with that being said, are you going to take the Boston Celtics or the field in 2025? Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of good teams out east. I know the East is least in a lot of our heads, but Milwaukee will have another year with Damian Lillard, who basically gave y'all the championship by giving y'all Drew Holiday. But they'll be able to build out the rest of their roster. I expect them to be better. Giannis is a top 3 player in the world. The New York Knicks were down 3 to 4 starters in the postseason, and hell, they probably should have beat Indiana if they had those guys available. Speaking of Indiana, we'll get to that a little later with what they did, but they have Tyrese Halliburton, they have Pascal. Are they going to add another big-time piece? Who knows? Maybe somebody will want to go play out in India the next couple of years. Then, of course, am I missing somebody? Oh, yeah, the Philadelphia 76ers, who could also sign a Paul George. They could sign maybe a Klay Thompson, or maybe they do it the same way you guys did it. They have 2 stars. They go out and get other good pieces. Maybe another really, really good player like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Maybe they get their own version of that. Tobias Harris's contract is off the books. There could be somebody interesting that they could add over there now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Are you taking Boston in 2025 or the field, though?
Well, so let's look at all those teams that you mentioned. I mean, the Sixers could easily add another superstar this offseason. There are some reports going around that the whole Daryl Morey, James Harden situation might scare some superstars away, but that's to be seen if that actually happens. I mean, at this point, honestly, I feel like we're closer to Paul George leaving the Clippers and staying. I feel like just from what we're hearing and stuff like that, I would not be shocked if a change of scenery did happen this offseason for him. He wants a max deal. I don't know if the Clippers are willing to give that to him. And some other teams would. So the Sixers can be competitive again. I mean, Embiid, if he's not healthy, then I don't think they're going to go anywhere. So that all really comes down to Embiid's health, I think, first and foremost. The Knicks, I think, could add another superstar this offseason, whether it's with a trade, like trading Julius Randle, freeing up some money and bringing someone else in, sign and trade, re-signing OG. Like, when they're healthy, they're dangerous. I said all postseason, that is the one team that I'm actually scared of in the East if we play them, because they could run us off. Like, that's a hard-nosed team. They don't give up at all. Like, if there's a team that could upset us, I thought it was going to be the Knicks. Pacers, young team, but they got their experience. They got that lick of the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see what they can do this offseason. And then Milwaukee, I agree. them giving up Drew Holiday hurt them for sure because that was like their glue guy. Everyone loved Drew Holiday. You got Damian Lillard, which I mean um, is not a bad guy to get in return, but he was hurt. Also getting older. Giannis was hurt. I mean, he's still in his prime right now. So I think with a prime Giannis and with a healthy Giannis, the sky's the limit. You can still go far. I would just be interested to see how that team's going to look on opening night with their core to see if some guys are going to be gone, it's going to be back. Their window isn't quite as open as I would say a Boston's.
Yeah,
I think they're definitely on like all right, guys, like we need to win now because who knows what's going to happen in a few years type of thing. Um, so we'll see what happens with Milwaukee. But that's all a bunch of like, if this happens, whatever.
absolutely.
What we do know is Boston, their rotation in the playoffs, everyone that was on that team is going to be back next season. Tatum is going to sign his extension this offseason, or hopefully sign his extension this offseason.
He's gonna sign that shit.
I don't see a world where he doesn't. Jaylen Brown's locked in for another 5 years. Drew Holiday signed his extension. Kristaps, who we'd even mention, he did play in Game 5. Did not look good, but he did play in Game 5. Going to get
He turned the
surgery
game. He still turned the game on
he
its head.
still did, absolutely. He's going to get surgery on his foot to fix some things down there. He's going to have a few months to
The reticulum.
yeah, whatever the fuck they got to fix, they're going to fix. Give him some time to heal up from the calf injuries or whatever. He's under contract for another 2-3 years. Derek White is the Celtics are making it a priority to get that extension done this offseason. And then you have Al Horford, who it seems like from what he said in the interviews, it seems like he's going to come back for at least one more year. Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser on deals for the next 2-3 years, and then you just have fillers. So the rest of the bench you can re-sign, bring in some new guys, whatever. But your top 8 guys are all coming back next season. Now, do I want to sit here and say like I'm guaranteeing a championship? No, because anything could happen in the NBA. Things, shit happens, shit can hit the fan. But the team that just won the championship, you can say they made it through an injured Eastern Conference Finals if you want. If you want to make that argument, sure.
You got to play who's in front of you.
But you play who's in front of you, and that's what the Celtics did with this roster, and they won a championship with this roster. So it's hard for me to think that there's not a good chance that they do the same thing next year. Again, it's hard. No team has gone back to back since the KD Warriors in 17-18. So it's a tough feat. But they got their first one. They got the taste. They know what they have to do now. That's what's most important. And that's something that they have over all those teams that I mentioned, except for the Bucks, maybe because Giannis won a championship. None of those teams have that winning experience. They don't know what it's like to win a championship. Now that the Celtics do, they were already maybe a level ahead of those teams. I think that puts them ahead a little bit more. Granted, again, free agency happens. Some of these teams can bring guys in. That changes things. But as of right now, I think the Celtics are still head and shoulders the best team in the East. In the West, a lot of great teams out West. We'll see what happens over there. But I don't think – I think the Celtics should be favorites going into next season to win a championship.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I actually did have the favorites for next season.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Boston, Denver –
Minnesota, Denver, Minnesota, Dallas, Milwaukee, and OKC are all tied 10-1 odds. So
gotcha.
Boston is definitely the undisputed favorites. I think, the East is, they could upgrade, like I said, all those possibilities. But like you mentioned, they are a bunch of what-if scenarios. And Joel Embiid's health is probably the biggest one. Because if he is healthy, I think that's the biggest threat because he could be the best player in the league, right? If he's healthy. It's just a big what-if, so... I definitely think I could pencil in Boston on my Eastern Conference bracket to be back in the Eastern Conference Finals and probably representing the East for a second straight year. Now, what's out there going on out West is a whole different level. Because Dallas squeaking out was still something that I don't think anybody even expected to happen. We all had Denver there. We all possibly had the Clippers there again. But you go back to episode 1 of this podcast, I said I'm done betting on the Clippers, so not me. But still there. That's definitely a
pulling
team
up their receipts.
Yeah, I definitely. Hey, you know how I feel about the Clippers. I'm good. So that's still a possibility of them
Yep.
possibly getting PG back. Or we don't know how they're going to look. Will the Lakers make a move? Who knows? The Timberwolves are going to get better. OKC is going to be another year older. Maybe even more people want to go play in Dallas.
Yeah.
Since they did just get there, they have two of the best perimeter players in the game today, possibly ever. So it's going to be another, hey, maybe Paul George decides to go there instead of a Philadelphia. Everybody's rumoring him to go. It could be interesting to see how things kind of shake out. But I think the West is kind of where I'd take the field
Sure.
out West because
Yeah.
Denver, let's face it, if Denver plays Boston, that's a whole different series
For sure.
compared to how it looked with Dallas playing Boston.
Hmm.
Perimeter centric, perimeter oriented for Dallas. You take out their two heads of the Snakes, you kind of had free reign. PJ Washington shot like shit in the finals. Maxi
The
Kleber,
third option.
Tim Hardaway Jr., all those guys were just kind of ineffective. Derek Lively was probably low key the second best player on the floor for Dallas, even more so over than Kyrie. So Dallas, I'm not really counting them to get back there. Like, to be totally honest with you, I didn't expect them to get there in the first place.
Yeah.
But
Kind of like a mini Cinderella run in a way
yeah,
for them.
yeah, they
Beat some
really
tough
drew
opponents. Beat some
they
tough
drew the perfect
opponents.
cards though. They drew the
Hmm.
perfect cards. Playing the Clippers in round one, a team you could beat. Then playing a younger OKC team, another team that you could beat. Not as big down low as Gafford or Lively, so you took advantage of the size discrepancy there. Then even in the WCF, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves were just the offense has just been sludgy all season long. They were 17th in the regular season offensive rating. I think we talked about weeks ago. So it really came down to what Anthony Edwards and Karl Towns could do. Karl
Yeah.
Towns shot terribly most of the series, and Anthony Edwards was a one-man band. It's easy to stop when you only got to key in on one guy. No disrespect to the rest of the team, but Denver was who was supposed to be there.
Right.
And that would have been the best finals of this damn decade because I'm still waiting on a competitive one.
It's been
So,
a while.
yeah.
It's been a few years. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the biggest competition to Boston at this point is the
Yeah.
teams out west, and
They
then
beat they beat them twice in the regular season too. Denver was 2-0 against
I
Boston.
mean, I wish I had the statistic pulled up, but Boston did have the best record against the West
Hmm.
in the NBA this year, winning percentage and everything. I mean, they held their own against the Western Conference teams. Playoffs are different, of course, but I think that's the biggest threat to the Celtics not repeating is a team out west. And also, I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this before, just the Celtics roster and talking about like their ability to go back to back and also just like win more championships potentially. Jaylen Brown's 28. Jason Tatum is 26 years old. Derek White is 30. Kristaps is 29. All players that are either about to hit their prime or are in their prime. Drew
Yep.
Holiday, 34. Al Horford's older, but we see he's been aging like fine wine. Even like Peyton Pritchard, 26. Sam Hauser, 27. This age group right now is dynasty age level shit right
Oh,
here.
hey, you
Like
know how
they're
I
the
feel.
perfect age to make this happen.
You know how I feel. Like even if I don't really have you guys winning in 2025, I told you last episode or whenever that you guys are supposed to win another 3 to 4 more championships potentially in this decade alone. It could
And
just be
then
more Spurs esque where you don't repeat, but every other
every
year you're
every
probably
other
going to be
year,
there. Yeah,
it's like the next 4 or 5 years, it should be expected
yeah,
health wise, health considering that they make it to the finals every year. That should be the
absolutely.
expectation. Obviously, the expectations to win, but like that should be the floor, making it to the finals with this roster.
You know,
Yeah.
I think last thing I could say about this before we get to the other team that did play in the finals, we've been talking about Boston for damn near 30 minutes. But I think it's important to note that teams are going to be built to beat you guys now. Just like how we saw with Minnesota, right? How they were literally built handmade. Tim Connolly did his damn thing, getting Rudy Gobert, Carl Anthony Towns, and Naz Reid, other supporting players, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, all these defensive minds that could switch and play that free safety. I think they really took a page out of the 2020 Lakers playbook against Denver by having bigs and ones that can roam to shut down Jokic. Now, can you shut him down? No. But they held them in check enough to win on their home floor in game 7. Now,
Absolutely.
I say all that to say for Boston, there's two big wings that you have to stop. Kristaps Porzingis is a 7'3" guy that can shoot over the top pretty much anybody. And Drew Holiday is a problem. They, we've been saying this all season long, all postseason long, all finals long. Their top six is pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be pretty tough to stop. So I'm interested to see how teams pivot. What are they going to look like when they're trying to build a championship contender out east now or out west even for Boston? Because, hey, we got to be able to slow those two guys down, which Jaylen Brown should have been on an all-NBA team, just a random thought. But trying to slow those two guys down and then trying to shut out their third option player. Or do you want Kristaps to beat you? I'm just really curious to see what the game plan is going to look for when people are putting together their rosters this summer and moving forward for the rest of the decade. Because that happens, right? People, they plan to beat you. Just like Toronto was a perfect team to match up against Golden State.
We're not the hunters anymore. We're the hunted.
That's right. There's a target on your back now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very interested to see what GMs do because Golden State had their run, but I really feel like Toronto healthy and a healthy Golden State team. Golden State probably wins in 2019, but that doesn't change the fact.
I think the Warriors win in 5 games.
They probably do. They probably do. Yeah. But they still were trying to build a team to match up with them is the point. Both teams in both conferences will be doing that. So it's very interesting to see.
The Celtics laid down the foundation. They have the blueprint of how to build a team-oriented championship contender. And, for them, it paid off, holding on to Jalen, Jason, the patience, and then just finding the right pieces to put around them. I mean, luckily for us, Brad Stevens is a genius, and he has a little crystal ball. He traded scraps away to get Derek White, traded scraps to get I love Marcus Smart.
You got disrespectful.
Kristaps and all these guys, Drew Holiday, man. I mean, they had to be the sacrifices, the martyrs. But, hey, these guys were just sitting around waiting to get picked up, and that's what the Celtics did, and it paid off. So it all worked out.
All right. Now that we're done talking about the NBA champions, let's talk about the biggest loser here, or the first loser here in the Dallas Mavericks, who had a great season, had a great run, as we mentioned in some of the Boston segments that we were doing, beating a 1 seed. I think the Clippers were a 3 seed, and then they beat the 4 seed. Every seed was higher than them along their path to get here. Luka was magnificent. Kyrie was magnificent most of these playoffs. I believe I seen a stat on ESPN this morning that backcourt duo scored over 1,200 points in the postseason. That's the most for any duo in the backcourt for guards in NBA history. So we give our credit to those guys that are due. So.
Absolutely.
But did you know that learning actually makes a sound? It's true. Listen, that's the sound of you learning a new language with Babbel. Remember when Kobe learned French just to talk smack to Tony Parker? Or when he learned Bosnian just to get inside Yusuf Nurkic's head? Absolute boss moves by the Black Mamba. Just imagine if Kobe had Babbel in his pocket. Geez, the entire league would be in danger of his mind games regardless of where they were from. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching, so that you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Babbel's convenient courses have helped me learn real-life conversation skills in a different language. It's easy to prep for my next trip abroad, learning how to ask for directions, how to order food, or to speak to merchants, without having to consult with a language app while I'm on vacation has been a blessing. Plus, they have speech recognition technology that helps with your pronunciation and even your accent. If this sounds good to you, download Babbel today. Here's a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off of your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at Babbel.com/courtside. Get up to 60% off at Babbel.com/sitting courtside, spelled BABBEL.com/sitting courtside. Rules and restrictions may apply. Just like how Jason Tatum has had to face these narratives, being on a good team that made it to the finals in 2022, constant conference finals appearances, right? That can he win? Can Tatum be the guy? Do we have to break up the Jays? Now that spotlight shifts to Luka Doncic.
Yep.
Now, question. Can the Mavs win with Luka being the lead guy out in Dallas?
I think they can. I just think they need to build a better roster around him. Now, I think Kyrie is almost a perfect running mate to put next to him. I mean, we were talking about them being the most skilled backcourt of all time. Maybe we got a little bit of ahead of ourselves before the finals started and stuff like that. But I still think there is an argument to be made that they are the most talented backcourt today in the NBA and still potentially all time. But you Luka got exposed on defense this postseason in this finals run. We know on offense, he is so gifted, he is so skilled, he can score in many, many, many different ways. He complains a lot, cries a lot. He needs to work on that. He needs to mature a little bit. But I mean, all NBA stars too, like they complain about not getting calls, whatever. So I mean, that is part of the game, I guess. I think the Dallas Mavericks need to bring in guys that will be able to help Luka on defense for him not to get exposed as much. More perimeter players, a solid defensive minded wing player, maybe another defensive minded guard or something like that. And I know Luka's the point guard or guard technically, but he's big enough where you can slide him over to a three if you wanted to.
That's
Or
really
just
what he is in my mind, too, by
I
the way.
think I always look at him as a three. He's just a
Yeah.
three that can handle the ball. That's like LeBron. It's like LeBron.
Yes.
He can be the point guard if he wants to, but he's the three. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I view Luka. Gafford's good. Lively, I think, is young. He's only going to get better. But you need to have more perimeter minded defensive players to put around Luka because I think he can lead the way when it comes to offense and stuff like that and being a leader. Kyrie, I think, is again fantastic running mate where he can give you 30 a night if you need him to, but he's going to play alongside Luka and go with the flow there. But you need more support. You need to give him more support on defense. I think that's where they lacked heavily. They weren't a terrible defensive team, but that's where that's where they need to fucking build is the defensive side of things. On offense, they're great. They had their ups and downs, their lows, whatever, but that's where the Mavs need to support Luka. I think he can be the number one on a championship team, absolutely. He just needs more support on the defensive side of things, I believe.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it goes without saying that we both believe in Luka's talent. I think we'd both have him as a top 5 player in today's game. Like, he's going to be an MVP candidate for the rest of the decade, and he could possibly win multiple. So there's no question about how I feel about Luka and his possible potential to get over that hump to win a championship or whatever. But I agree with you. I think as a defender, there was a lot of defensive liability moments where we talked about it last week. I've never seen a blow-by stat day in my life.
And he was the only player mentioned on the blow-by stat.
Yes.
It wasn't him and a few other guys. It was just Luka.
Just Luka. So it was clear who the
I don't know if they had stats on anyone else. I think it was just for Luka, but it was still funny as fuck to see.
It was clear who Boston was targeting to get out of switches, who they wanted to end up on an island with Tatum or Brown or Holiday. It was very, very evident, clearly. So he did have moments where he did play up to what his defensive numbers were. He had a good defensive game in Game 4. Even in Game 5, he wasn't terrible, but I think he ran out of gas carrying the offense as well. So what I think they need to do, what I think they need to add, since you already did kind of mention that, and that's a little further down, but you kind of hit it on the head. It's definitely a defensive player, 3-and-D guys. I want them to take a page out of the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. Because Luka essentially is your LeBron. Sure, he's not the freak athlete. No, he's definitely not the defender that LeBron was or is. But you take the other pieces. You have Kyrie Irving literally in place, and he's better than what he was in 2016 now. So you already have the point guard position figured out. But what Cleveland did great was by adding 2, not 1, but 2 great two-way wings in J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert. Not all-star players by any means, but J.R. Smith is especially a guy that can catch fire and give you 20 in a finals game potentially, which sometimes having one big game out of your 6th man is all I really need. Amon Shumpert, another guy that can get you 10 to 12 points a game, good rim runner, can move well without the ball, a good cutter, can knock down an open 3, could also guard the opposing team's best player like he did Steph, like he did Clay in those NBA finals when they were there. So I think it's pretty simple on what they need to do. Now, are the pieces out there to get it? I haven't really took a deep dive into this free agency class since we just got done, but 3-and-D guys is what you need. A guy that could also create their own offense is what you need. I mentioned
Right.
Paul George. I think if Dallas gives you the money,
Paul George, yeah, that could be
it's
a great guy to
it's a
put.
perfect fit. Like I know we talked about Luka being more of a 3. Yeah, to me that's what he is. But hey, I wouldn't mind keeping him at the 1 or the 2 if we get an all-star player like Paul George into the
Yeah.
fold. Like
I
that
mean,
makes sense.
the first guy that came to my mind, honestly, and he's not free agent, this guy you trade for, like an Alex Caruso, a Jonathan Isaac,
Yeah,
like guys like Kyle Anderson, maybe from Minnesota, like
maybe even Kyle Kuzma
Kyle,
would be an upgrade.
like, it's not like you don't need to hit home runs with all these guys. You know what I mean? Like you said,
Yeah,
like the J.R. Smiths, Iman Shumperts, you can even say like they got them at New York, but like I don't even know if those were their best years in Cleveland. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like they were, you trade for these
no,
guys that were perennial all stars or nothing like that. You just got guys that knew their job and they played it well. They knew
yeah,
their role and they got the job done. I
literally.
think that's who Dallas needs. I think it's just a weird mix of guys right now, young, veterans, whatever. You just need to fill in the pieces and just put in the right players that plug
Yeah,
and play, and there you go.
yeah,
He's
literally.
not available now, but like a guy like OG would have been fucking amazing for that team.
OG is a free agent.
He is a free agent. That
Fielding
is
off.
true. If the Knicks don't want to pay him, the Mavs can slide in and do that. But
That'd be a perfect piece. I think any guy that I'm telling you, I think the 2016 Cavs is perfect. Luka's your LeBron. You got Kyrie being Kyrie. Go find your J.R. Smith. Go find your Montre. Hell, even go find your Richard Jefferson, who
sure,
started.
yeah,
He started
yeah,
the last couple games of the 2016 Finals. He was important for them. Now,
yeah,
like your Tristan Thompson is Derek Lively and Gafford. I'd say that's possibly an upgrade. No
sure,
disrespect to Tristan
yeah.
Thompson.
Tristan
He was a
Tristan
rebounding king of those
Kardashian.
finals, but I like Lively's ceiling a little more. He's taller, and then go get a stretch four man. Go find your Kevin Love. Like I
Yeah,
know Kevin Love's probably going to be a Hall of Famer, but you can find somebody that has those same intangibles, the same skill set, possibly via free agency or via trade. That's how you get better as the Dallas Mavericks.
yeah.
That's how you continue to be in the picture of the hey, they could come out the West, and it's not going to be a surprise this time. That's how you win.
I agree. Yeah, no, I just think bringing in those few extra guys, like smaller name players, is all you need. You don't
Yeah,
need to go for home runs. Like, hey, if a Paul George comes around, you can get Paul
sure,
George, absolutely. But
sure.
you don't need to just target players like that. That's not the. That's I don't think that should be the goal this offseason for them.
Yeah, the future's bright for him. I think, we mentioned the average age of, what Boston had on their roster. Pretty sure the Dallas Mavericks are in good standing too, with Kyrie possibly being the oldest player. Everybody
And
else is
Luca's
below 30.
25, man. He's so young. I
Yeah,
mean, we see his graphics all the time of like when players win their first championship and stuff like that by a certain age.
27, 28 is usually what
That
it is.
and like Luca needed to get to the finals to experience this. You're not always going to make it and win it your first time. That's
Yeah,
very hard to do if you don't have. Kyrie had the experience, but he wasn't leading the way here. Luca was. Now that Luca made it this far, had a tough path to get there, so they had some tough wins, faced some tough teams, and you get that taste of losing. Sometimes that's the ultimate motivator. Maybe he comes
you
into the
guys will
next
know.
season down 20 pounds, some muscle, and he actually starts playing defense. I'm not guaranteeing it, but hey, you know what I mean? Like it's a motivator. So we'll see. Hope maybe they'll be back next year and the next year after.
Hey, one franchise go to another. Look what Dirk Nowitzki did, right? He stayed in shape every single year. He lost in 2006. He won the title 5 years later. So, I mean, hey, if you stay consistent, stay in shape, which Dirk did all those years he was in the league, and he stayed ready, and he was rewarded for it with an NBA title, beating possibly one of the greatest teams ever assembled with the
Yep.
Miami Heat. So,
Yep.
hey, who knows what Luka might become, what he could do. But enough about these finals. The season's over.
Season's over, Jerry.
Season's over.
Season's over. Draft is right around the corner. Summer league is right around the corner.
There's
Uh,
a lot of big moments. A
a lot
lot of
of
big
big
moments.
moments. It's gonna be sad though, not being able to watch basketball, like actual, NBA regular season playoff basketball though for the next few
Yeah.
months.
Hey, but you know what? These news headlines and tabloids are going to be something to watch. And hey, a few days after the finals, we already got some news.
Hell
Monty
yeah.
Williams has been fired from the from the
the
Detroit
hand, the
Pistons.
handcuffs. He's loose from the handcuffs now. He's free. He's flying like a bird, sky high. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Highest paid coach in NBA history. Fired, let go after 1 year. Man, if I'm Monty Williams, I'm counting my blessings right now. I'm counting my blessings. I'm counting my checks that I'm going to be getting over the next few
Hey,
years
man,
with Detroit.
5 years, $65 million now are left on the deal. He can sit at home and chill for these next 5 years if he
I
wants to,
would. I
and he's,
would.
he's still getting paid.
He wanted to take a year off
Yeah.
because he's a lot of personal things happen in his life, and he
Yeah.
needs some time to whatever. Hey, money talks. I guess $65 million, a lot of money to turn down. Hey, guess what? He took it, and a year later, he can take his time off. But
And
his
you know
pockets
what?
are a little fatter now.
I just have, before we do go to the next big news headline here, I have a real problem with the Detroit Pistons and how they run their organization. Because
what
they
what what
wonder,
about the organization do you not like? What do you? I thought they were perfectly run. They're like
dude,
a well-oiled machine.
it's clear that they have talent on the roster. I like Cade Cunningham. I like Jalen Duren. I like Asar Thompson. Hell, even Jaden Ivey came out this year a little better, right? But when it's a revolving door at your head coaching spot with young talent, where nobody has a guy that they can kind of just lean on and talk to, or a coach to kind of be like, hey, man, I need help with this, or I'm not understanding X and Y, you can't really create a culture if you fire your head coaches after 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the Lakers. You don't have title expectations to where we kind of expect the Lakers to fire coaches every 2 years, but we're not really so surprised that Frank Vogel didn't last after winning a title, or Luke Walton was expelled after two seasons or whatever. Same thing with Darvin Ham. It's not a shocker. It's sad, but I'm not shocked. When a
Yeah.
younger team that's not as successful, especially they haven't been relevant since Blake Griffin at this point, that was their
Sure.
last good season.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, keep a coach. Look what the
Yeah.
Magic did. Jamal Mosley was in place for years. Damn, the Magic are trash, but you know what? They're getting better. They're getting young talent. They're assessing it. They're processing them. They're figuring out what players what. Jalen Suggs goes here. Paulos are one. Franz's are two. There's a system in
Yeah.
place, and they respect Jamal Mosley. The Detroit Piston, they don't have shit in place. Cade Cunningham is he's going on to possibly his third coach. I'm not sure. I need to look it up, but this is possibly his third or fourth year in the league. Why is he
Yeah.
getting another head coach already?
It's hard to build consistency. It's hard to build culture, team there when you keep just having coaches going out. I mean, Monty Williams ain't no scrub. Former
No,
coach of the year.
no.
He knows what he's doing. He knows
Went to
his
the
X's and
finals.
O's. Went to the finals, so it's like I don't know. The coaches are always the first one to take the fall. We've talked about this before. That's just how it is in the NBA. But like you can't give
Stupid.
up. I mean, like I don't want to bring them up again, but the Celtics after the whole rebuild, when Doc Rivers went out the door, and they bring in Brad Stevens, they had up and down years. They had years that they had high expectations and didn't reach it. What if they just kept firing people and bringing guys in? They wouldn't have gotten to the point where they are now.
Different ball game. Different
If
ball
you know
game,
what
man.
I mean. So it's like it's something to be said about having that coach. And the Orlando Magic is a great example. You stick with it and you see where it goes. And like, hey, after a few years, if it's really not working out, okay, then that's a little bit more justified.
Yeah.
But if you only give them 1 year, the Pistons are so young, and there just wasn't any. There was there was nothing going there. They had
No.
nothing going for them when he stepped in. You're gonna fire him after a year because they were the worst team in basketball. I mean, that
Yeah, that
sucks.
helps.
But like, you know what I mean. But like, you have to give him time. And hey, whoever comes in next, God bless them.
Yes. Yes. No, seriously.
God
Like,
bless them.
I'm concerned for ownership is the one that made the firing, apparently. So whoever's ownership, you need to learn to relax, take a
Yeah,
step back, let people do their jobs and let them grow. When you hire somebody into an entry level position, you don't expect them to stay in an entry level position in
yeah,
your business. You got to let them take these steps on their own. You can't spoon feed them or have them on a leash as a coach. You got to let coaches coach. You got to let
Right.
owners own. So run the
Yep.
operations, make sure ticket sales are good, all that good shit. Like, that's on you. The process of the status of the team, let the coach handle that and give him some time. Like if
Yeah.
JJ Redick is hired to the Lakers, he should not be gone after one season unless the Lakers go 20-62. Only way I want you to fire JJ Redick or
But that's
whoever.
a little bit more justified. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I agree.
Anyway. But
Anyway.
now, for some happy news, finally, especially for this guy's pockets to end off our show here. Pascal Siakam signed a 4-year, $189 million extension. After
Woo.
getting traded to the Pacers midseason, he was clearly the piece that they needed to kind of, make them a little more relevant. An NBA champion back in 2019, added his veteran leadership to a young nucleus that needed it with Tyrese and Miles Turner and those guys. Made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Got swept by the better team, obviously. Conversation that we already had, but well deserved by Pascal. Good move for
Yeah,
Indiana.
absolutely. And Pascal, there was a lot of concern that he wanted to stay in Toronto, whichever team traded for him. He may not have re-signed with them,
Yeah.
all this and that. So nice to see that, things worked out with him in Indiana. I think it was a great landing spot for him. I think it's a great, great place for him to help build, what they have going there with a lot of the young guys. He's a foundation piece. Former champ. He knows what it takes to get the job done. So you need a guy like that. So yeah, no, it's a great deal. I mean, NBA money is crazy, my friends, but that's the normal nowadays, and it's only going up. So
I seen Adam Schefter tweet, like retweet Woj's.
quarterback money or
Yeah,
whatever it
just
is.
like,
Yeah,
wow, this is
NFL quarterback
crazy.
money for real. Hey, man, that's what it is in the NBA. They have different
Salary cap, man.
standards, different caps and stuff. So, and with the new television deal that's going to be put in place next year, we're going to be seeing some $100 million contracts in the not so distant future, which is
Like,
just makes me sick to my stomach.
I mean, how does it sound to say Pascal Siakam is the Joe Burrow of the NBA? It doesn't even fit.
I've always called Pascal Siakam the Joe Burrow of the NBA.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny you say that. I've always referred to him as that. I've always referred to Joe Burrow as the Pascal Siakam of the NFL. Yeah, goes
Hey,
both
man.
ways.
The
But
more,
yeah,
the more you
good
know.
for Siakam. Fill those pockets, baby. Get
Yeah,
that
man.
money. Get that bag.
Love to see a brother get paid.
That's right. Yeah, I'll never bash a man for getting the bag. Well deserved.
Other than Melo.
Other than
Conversation for another day.
that.
That's all we got on our rundown, man. You have any parting shots for me, other people here?
Hey, any Boston fans, see you at the parade on Friday. It's going to be a big day. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be one of the best days of our lives. Shout out to the Boston Celtics for making me the happiest man on planet Earth. We'll see you in the finals again next year.
Okay, yeah, I got nothing. Take us home.
And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe if you are here watching on YouTube. Put in the comments who you think is going to be in the NBA Finals next year and what you thought of this NBA Finals. If you think Jaylen Brown deserved to win MVP or it should have been Jason Tatum. If you are a podcast-only listener, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating, review, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for more gamified content. Check out our shorts here on YouTube for gamified content. Until next time, Jerry, peace.